Pasha Paroh. Thank you for tuning. Welcome back, public. We're here today in the tower. Let's see, HQ. All right. What we're talking about today is beyond the city limits. All right. National issues that people confuse with being local. So let's get into it. Let's check and make sure we got audio. All right. So while we doing this, let's take a look here at our stats. All right, we good on sound. Okay. Viewership 21.4% female, 78.6% male. We got an intense battle here with the subscribe versus the not subscribe. We got 48.6 subscribe, and we got 51.4% not subscribe. Intense battle, intense battle, intense battle. Every time we get a new one to slide over to the subscriber and become a subscriber, we get more people that are non-subscribers watching. So let's just keep this battle going on, and we'll keep growing the channel that way. I think that's the easiest way to do it. All right. So question of the day. Question of the day is, business owners, if you had an extra $721 billion to spend, what would you do with it? And yes, I know that sounds crazy, a lot amount of money, currency, but it's actually how much the US government gave out in grants alone in 2020. So think about that. $721 billion went to small businesses and the like in the form of grants. What would you do with it? Why is our community saying they can't, they don't have this, they can't do that, we can't scale up, we can't tool up? If $721 billion in grants went to the small businesses, I think the answer is easy. It's because what I've always say, the people who get the grants can't do what the community really needs. The grants are only in place to do what the government wants done, which is normally the prerequisites for things like gentrification, stuff like that, right? Gentrification, stuff like that. So another conversation that we had on Why Not 7 in the past, check it out. But the question of the day, business owners, if you had an extra $721 billion to spend, what would you do with it? That's the amount of money US gave out in grants 2020. Let's get to the topic for today. So I thought of this to share with you guys from a post I made, and the post said, you know, I'll be doing the them versus Pasha conversational piece, like somebody talking to you. I'll be doing that a lot. So I was sitting there thinking, and I had a thought that evolved into this Facebook post. And what it was saying was, it was staged like a little conversation. So them, Pasha, you talk about America like you don't care about our city, and you replace that with whatever city you in, right? So Pasha's response is, the area of a 70-mile wide circle. You know, come on now, you know I'll be doing that nerd shit, so don't laugh. Just look, get the message. The area of a 90-mile wide circle is pi times 35 miles squared. That equals 3,848 miles. So let's say that circle is your city. What is your city compared to America? The percentage, 3,848 square miles divided by 3,120,000 square miles times 100 to make it a percentage is 0.123%. Your 70-mile wide circle city is 0.123% of our nation. Now, I'm not trying to make you seem insignificant, but therefore, a 70-mile wide circle would cover approximately 0.123% of the total land area of the United States, if you want to call it that, or America. Do you think that 0.123% of America is causing 100% of your problems? Do you really think that 0.123%, your local small field of view in your city, is responsible for 100% of your problems? Do you think that the 0.123% of America is causing 100% of the issues that you're dealing with? If you feel like that is true, let me know in the comments. If you feel like that can't be true, let me know that in the comments. Because if that's the case, if it's not true, if the 0.123% is not the source of all 100% of your issues, then that means we got to go outside of the 0.123% to solve some of those issues. And depending on what issue you're talking about, it's other 0.123% in other places that are dealing with the same issue or something similar. We might need to go on a national level. Oh shit, Pasha be thinking on a national level. That's why people don't really get them on the small level, which is okay. You heard the quote, you can't build a kingdom with someone who still seeks attention from the village. See, because when you're stuck on a village mindset, you can't focus on the actual issues, the actual problems. You can only try to focus on getting acceptance from the couple handful of people that's around you, because that's all your world consists of. The 0.123% of the nation, the 0.123% of the nation. Okay, so now that we got that clear, let's dance. Pum, 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 pum. Cool. Oh, I just found out I could do that. I didn't know I could do it like that. Learn something new every day. All right, so let's get to it. Let me get my notes out here. Inflation, right? If you're dealing with inflation on in your local level, it's a significant concern across the whole country, right? Affects the cost of living, affects that's every community. Local factors like prices are influenced by it. They say it's driven by national and global conditions, right? But for instance, supply chains disruptions, federal monetary policies, and international trade dynamics are all so supposedly contributing to inflation, right? This issue is particularly pressing for Republicans, with 77% identifying it as a big problem for those who are looking for conversational points on the checkbox of who they're going to checkbox. If you check boxing, I'm American, so I don't checkbox. Right now, this is totally cool because now I don't even have to take the time to do that, and I can see everything. This is awesome. So look, check this out, right? Housing affordability. Let's look at that, right? So housing affordability is a critical issue, right? Many local governments are having problems with it. It's influenced by inflation, partly, like we just talked about. The national economics policy try to weigh in on it. Federal funding is trying to do their thing for it. Broader market trends are affected by it, right? So the lack of affordable housing in your city, in your 0.123% of America, do you feel like it's only affected, the issue is created from your city alone, or do you feel like it's a national issue? See, the lack of affordable housing is a high priority for local leaders who are concerned about the availability of workforce housing. That's really what they're concerned about, workforce housing, right? So federal grants and funding play a significant role in addressing it, but communities often face barriers accessing those resources. So the question of the day is on all of these topics is, do you think that it's the issues only, the cause of the issue in your city is only because of your city, right? All right. So healthcare costs, right? Healthcare costs is a national issue, right? Healthcare impacts local communities. Is it affordable to you? Has it become more or less of a significant concern over the last 4 or 5 years, with a 9 percentage point increase in the number of people viewing it as a very big problem since May 2022, right? So the issue has become bigger. The policies are becoming more spoke about. Insurance regulations are going crazy. Pharmaceutical pricing is going crazy. Is there any control of national and local governments over this matter? What about drug addiction and gun violence? Do you feel like the epidemics happening in your city right now are the success of your city, or do you feel like it's actually a national issue? Right? Drug addiction and gun violence affects communities nationwide. The problems are often seen as local crises, but are driven by national trends in drug trafficking, mental health policies, gun control laws, you name it, right? So for example, gun violence is a top concern for Democrats, with about 81% considering it a very big problem. But where does it come from, right? We did the video on Y97 that's shown crime is commercial. And most of the crime only occurs because of the mental health issues, the emotional lack of intelligence in certain cases, but it's all the success of economics. So they can't fix those issues locally or nationally unless they want to change the economic platform. See, it's the reason why I sound weird when Pasha be like, what we need to do is get rid of the currency. Because as soon as you tell people you got to get rid of the currency, they get offended because, hey, they spent $90,000, $200,000 in 4 years to go to this college to get this piece of paper that says they should be able to earn more than you. So their whole life is wrapped around this fiat paper they can collect saying that they're better than you, so that they can take their fiat paper on and leverage getting some more fiat fakeness by getting an instrument that says they can ride around in a Rolls Royce because they qualify for the financing, and people like you or me may not today. But once we take away the currency, there will be no separation, and everybody will be able to get what it is they want, because when automation and AI fully take over, everything that's being produced will race to a 0 point in the cost of production. So there'll be no separation between what humanity can access for each other unless the corruption steps in and finds a way to put vices in between. So the person that is $600,000 in debt in student loans so that they can make $100,000 more a year than you and talk shit will be jumping off the buildings because you'll be able to go get the Porsche 911 just like they will. What about climate change? Right? Do you even think climate change is real? Is it is it I mean real in the sense of, is it really something that humanity is doing, or is it just a natural earth cycle that people finding ways to capitalize off of and make a couple dollars and tell you can't start a business that emits smoke because their business already emits too much smoke. So you can't have it. You can't have your business. Because ours is already in place. Climate change is a global issue with many local impacts. But local governments can implement policies to, try to offset its effects. But think about it. How can a local government implement a policy to do something about climate change if climate change is truly a global issue? Don't the same wind that blow over China blow over New Mexico? Do the same cloud that passed over Texas eventually drop rain in North Carolina? How you gonna have a local government say they gonna make some policies to mitigate the effect of climate change? That might not even be just limited to a national issue. If it's true, obviously that would have to be a global scale thing. But the issues that you're dealing with, like the droughts here, the flooding there, all this stuff are affecting your city, but has nothing to do with your 0.123% circle. And for those that may not know what I'm referring to when I say that, he started off saying that the city is 0.123% of America. We did that right here. So the area of a 70-mile wide circle, just to recap, 3,848 square miles. So you figure your city probably is in a circle of 70 miles wide. Easy, most of them. So that 3,848 square miles ratio to America, which is 3,120,000 square miles, they tell us, that's only 0.123% of the total land of America. So the little issues, the little stuff that's going on in your 0.123% of the nation, do you really feel like it's responsible for 100% of the problems that you're dealing with right now? Because Pasha they be like, Pasha, you talk about America like, you don't care about our city or this city, right? And I'm trying to tell you that what's going on in your city is the effects, is the success of what's going on in America. It's like, to know American history, you'll never know American history unless you study world history, because America is the world, right? So that's what happens. We got to learn to think past the surface, think beyond the surface. So when you see people and you refer to them as being shallow, that's the same thing we're dealing with here on the city level, right? On the state level, and actually on the national level as well. What about immigration policy, right? National issue. What's going on in your neck of the woods dealing with immigration? Let us know in the comments. Let's build the conversation, right? What's your observation? Communities across the country deal with the effects. There's federal immigration policies. There's local immigration policies, including the provision of services for immigrants. There's people making fiat currency off of that. There's people that's getting pushed out the way because of that, right? So including the provisions of services to immigrants and the integration of new residents, Republicans, right, are more than twice as likely as Democrats to see illegal immigrants as a very big problem. What's your take on it? Let us know in the comments. Local governments have to manage and deal with the challenges posed by immigration, such as housing and employment, which goes back to some of the things that we mentioned earlier, right? Has cost effects for the rest of the surrounding area. But what what are those things coming from? Speaking of which, funding and stuff. What about the funding of the federal funding and grants? Just in general, right? Federal funding and grants. We talked about that number. Was it 712 billion or something? Let me see here. Question. It brings us to the question of the day again. So, question of the day is: business owners, if you had an extra $721 billion to spend, what would you do with it? Crazy number, but that's actually the amount of money quoted in some cases that the U.S. government gave out in grants in 2020 alone. So small businesses and other people that can access grants received a total of $721 billion from the United States government. So my question is, if that's the case, why is our community still saying they can't spool up, tool up, all this good stuff? Businesses that would actually make our community sustainable, healthy, homeless would have homes. They gave away $721 billion. Like, people are complaining about $30 billion going to Ukraine. And look, listen, it's Pasha. You know, Pasha don't even F with the US like that, right? But we gotta call a spade at the end of the day. Like I tell you, it's not that the government is the enemy, it's that the people are really suffering from user error. And until we understand that we're the users, we'll never understand the relationship properly, right? So before you complain, or the next time you hear someone complain about $30 billion going to Ukraine, let's talk about what we actually are doing or not doing with the $721 billion that they gave to small businesses in 2020 alone. My only gripe with that is, for the people who take the grants, they got to know that they're being used as pawns in a greater system of change management, because they're not going to give you the grant to go out there and build the engine that runs on water. No, they're not going to give you a grant to do that. They're going to give you the grant that makes you go out into the community and tell everybody, kumbaya, it's okay, while the community's getting ran down, and then they can come in and gentrify it in 5 to 7 years. So that's my issue. But that doesn't negate the point that they gave away $721 billion in 1 year in grants. So business owners, what would you do if you could actually do what you want with the grant money, right? Question of the day, let us know in the comments. Planet 7. All right, back to it, right? The conversation. We were on federal funding and grants. Okay, so excuse me. Hip Hop Smoothie. If you in Charlotte and you local, you gotta check them out, man. I had the nothing but love after the gym workout. It's good stuff. Feeling great. Cool guy. Ask for Carlos. So look, right? Federal funding, grants. Funding through grants significantly impacts the local communities, right? We talked about that, where it's immigration, whether it's policing, whether it's housing, all the stuff we done covered so far, and probably some of the stuff we're going to talk about here in the next 3 things I want to bring up. But accessing and managing these funds can be challenging. So if you have issues locally, it's another question you got to ask. If your local issues accessing funds, is it actually a local issue, or is it something greater outside of your community, outside of your 0.123% of the land under the horizon? Who do you need to talk to? How many people do you need to bring with you? What force would it take to make change? Because accessing and managing these funds is the challenge. If they gave away 721 billion, how much more do they have? what could we really do with it if we really got to it? And not just got to it, but got to it with a plan. Barriers include complex application processes, administrative burdens, and overlapping federal support programs. So, effective oversight and technical support from the federal government can help mitigate these challenges and ensure that communities can benefit from available resources. How many of y'all even know that there's resources for you? It's one thing to say, hey, look, I know you guys are giving out grants, but I want to stand 10 toes on being an American as long as I can. So I don't want the grant. Say no to the grant. Right? But how many of y'all know that there are grants for maybe whatever that y'all are into? Just because that's my stance doesn't mean that you have to stand. I don't need to convert you. But if you want to stand here in America, for America, then let's do that. But if not, then let's see what grants we can get for these United States citizens that want to be citizens, and then put them in position to serve the community, because that's what the United States is here for, to provide goods and services for we the people. So if you want to be a Walmart employee, then let's get you tooled up, spooled up for the community. All right? Bipartisan cooperation. Now, you hear this a lot when it comes to politics. What happens when we stop getting political with it? Stop looking at it as politician stuff like on your vote for me national campaigns. What happens if you start looking at the term bipartisan when it comes to you and your neighbors? So when I give you this section, don't think about Democrat and Republican. Think about you and the dude next door, you and the woman across the street that call the cops on everybody all the time. You know what I mean? Think about that application of bipartisan cooperation. Because there's a lack of bipartisan cooperation is a national issue. They're going to say it from their perspective. So as above, so below. So let's look at this, because political polarization at the national level can trickle down into local politics, making it difficult for communities to address their own problems effectively. How are you going to let someone in Washington, D.C. tell you when and where you can cross the street in your neighborhood? Does that even sound right? Then issue you a ticket to extract money from you, currency from you, to take back to D.C. to pay for their retirement. Does that even sound right? This issue is reflected in broader dissatisfaction with political leadership and governance. So now look at your HOAs locally. Look at your local municipalities. Look at your local government. Look at all them signs you got that says your city puts this ordinance up or this regulation up. How you feel about that? What's happening in your neighborhood that someone down at the local chamber of commerce came up with so they could make an extra 25% revenue, and they pitched it and lobbied it to your governor, and now you paying for stuff because JoJo wanted to ride a Lexus instead of a Hyundai, so he found a way to connect with his friends in your city, and now he gets the benefit of all of this new lobbying money generated because he's the company that whatever. What about crime and policing? Some places of the company, might as well say some places of the company is dealing with defunding of the police, right? Some places is dealing with trying to hold the police liable and responsible for issues they're doing to the community. Where you stand with that? Like, what's happening in your community with the police? Right? Crime and policing are often seen as local issues, but they're influenced by national policies and trends. National debates on criminal justice, reform, gun control, like we mentioned, drug policy shape local law enforcement practices and community safety. How do they define what's safety for you? Think about it. You talking about gun laws. How you going to have someone define what's safety for you? Oh, someone's breaking in your home. You're So what genius in your local government said, well, we're going to make everybody call the cops, wait 15 to 20 minutes for them to arrive when it takes the average intruder less than a minute to breach a home? Who defines safety for you? In your 0.123% of America, can you really feel that 100% of the issues you're dealing with comes from your 0.123% of America? Local governments must navigate these broader trends while addressing the specific needs of their community. You can't treat Plaza, you can't treat Betty's Ford the same way you treat Ballantyne. For those in Charlotte know what I'm talking about. But why not? Why not? When you trace it back, it's not really the answer that you first think. The answer that really comes from it is because they haven't been given equal investment. Oh, but you don't want to hear the political people levels, governments don't want to hear they need to invest more in these areas or balance out or make the same, because they want that standard of life and quality of life difference to sell to this individual over that individual. So when you look at your 0.123%, is what's happening in your area really the byproduct of your area itself, or what's been imposed on it from something in the other 99.98% of the nation that you don't see when you look out your window? Economic recovery is where we'll end off. Let me give you a photo here. What photo I want to put? Let's use this one. Some eye candy for the topic. Academic recovery from events like COVID or just your boss is a national issue with national and local implications. Federal economic policies, stimulus packages, and recovery programs, if you want to be a political subdivision to receive it, you know what I'm saying? I didn't get. Think about it. I'm not a political subdivision. I don't subscribe to being a political subdivision. So I didn't get any stimulus. I didn't get any what they call it. I didn't get any stimulus checks. At all. What was it? People was coming to work. Oh, I got 2,500. Whatever it was for them, the numbers, 2, 3, 4 times, however many times it happened. I got none of that. I partakes in America. That was United States citizenship. So local governments must implement these policies, right? Back it up a little bit here in my notes. So federal economic policies, stimulus packages, and recovery programs play a crucial role in shaping local economic conditions. So local governments must implement these policies and manage their impact on the community, but the issues are from outside of the community. Yeah. So that's today's video. I can end it here. Let's wind it down. So many issues that basically are perceived as local. Like you think about it in your mind, you talk about it with your people, you act like it's local. And when I say local, I don't just mean like east side, west side, north side, south side, my hood, your hood. I mean, it could be your job, right? Many of these things that you perceive as local are on a national and or international scope to be true. So for the people that want to talk about or have judgment on us because they feel like we're overlooking them, because we're talking about we're talking about America, and they want us to talk about Southside Charlotte. You don't understand that Southside Charlotte is America unless you subscribe to it being the United States. So whatever part of the map you see yourself on, when I say America, I'm talking about you. I'm talking about us. And understanding these broader contexts of these problems can help local leaders see me as a problem or see us as the solution. Residents advocate for more effective policies and resources, or know why they're only getting this end of the stick. That's where you got to start at. Never mind resources. So by recognizing the national dimensions of issues like inflation, housing, affordability, healthcare costs, and more, communities can better address their challenges and work towards sustainable solutions. And until we look at it like that, nothing's never going to change for you. It'll only be the surface. It'll only be seen in the shallows. And that's why, like, water, the shallow might be still. Like, you can get to a point where the shallow looks like it's still become calm, but underneath there's still the undertow, the turbulence, and all the stuff that'll drown you and pull you under if you get caught in it. For those who know water, I'm Pasha Paroh.